The war has lasted 7 years. David Kine knows this because he spent 6 of them trying to end it, negotiating with Solvari delegations who speak in riddles and metaphors his translators can barely parse, attending conferences on neutral stations where both sides argue about everything from territorial boundaries to what constitutes an acceptable lunch break. The 7th year, he stops trying to negotiate from a position of strength humanity, doesn't have and decides to try something that his superiors call diplomatically insane, and that he calls the only option left. He requests an audience with Queen Thessasalvar herself, not through intermediaries or ambassadors, but direct petition to the throne. The request alone causes diplomatic chaos. Humans don't petition the Solvari throne, they're barely acknowledged by it. But something about David's message, written in painstaking Solvari formal script that took him 3 weeks to compose, catches the Queen's attention. She grants the audience. Earth's diplomatic corps has approximately 48 hours of collective panic. David arrives at the Solvari throne world aboard a vessel so small it barely registers on their defense grids. This is deliberate. Every choice he's made has been calculated to signal non-aggression, from the ship's size to his lack of armed escort to the formal robes he wears that are human-designed but incorporate Solvari aesthetic elements. He's trying to say, I come in peace and I've done my homework, without actually saying it, because saying it would be considered presumptuous and possibly insulting depending on tonal inflection. Interstellar diplomacy is exhausting. The palace makes Earth's finest architecture look like someone's first attempt at Legos. It sprawls across a plateau that might be natural or might be engineered. With Solvari technology, it's genuinely hard to tell, built from materials that shift color based on time of day and probably also imperial mood. Towers rise in spirals that shouldn't be structurally sound but are. Gardens flow between buildings in defiance of conventional landscaping. Everything about it whispers that this civilization has been mastering aesthetics since before humans figured out agriculture. David is escorted through corridors by guards who don't walk so much as glide. Their movements precise, and probably also combat techniques he doesn't want to experience firsthand. His translator earpiece provides running commentary on the significance of various architectural features, most of which boil down to very old, very important, don't touch. They pass other Solvari, courtiers, advisors, beings whose functions David can't identify, but who all stop to stare at the human being escorted through their palace. He catches glimpses of their bioluminescent skin patterns, the way emotions play across their features in shifting colors his translator tries, and mostly fails to interpret. Their ears are universally long and elegant, rising from their skulls in points that vary slightly by individual but share the same essential grace. The throne room, when they finally reach it, is less a room and more a statement about power rendered in physical space. The ceiling arches so high David can't actually see it, just shadows and the impression of vast distance. Columns line the approach to the throne, each one carved with what his briefings suggested are historical chronicles of the Empire's greatest victories. There are a lot of columns. The Solvari have been winning for a long time, and at the far end, raised on a dais that makes everyone approaching feel small by design, sits Queen Thessasalvar. David has seen images, holographic recordings, intelligence briefings that included extensive analysis of her public appearances. None of it prepared him for the reality of her presence. She sits upon a throne carved from a single piece of crystal that legend says fell from a dying star, though David suspects the reality is more prosaic and involves mining operations. Her skin shifts through patterns of deep blue and silver bioluminescent tracery that flows across her features like living art. Her ears rise in perfect points, longer than those of her subjects, which apparently indicates royal bloodline, though the genetics involved make David's head hurt when he thinks about them too hard. Her eyes are golden, and hold the kind of intelligence that makes him simultaneously want to impress her and hide from her assessment. She wears robes that manage to be both armor and art, crystalline elements woven with fabric in ways that shouldn't work but do. She is magnificent and terrifying, and David is suddenly very aware that he's one human standing before the ruler of an empire that has never known defeat. The throne room is packed. Hundreds of Sylvari courtiers line the walls, fill the galleries, occupy every space where witnessing can occur. They've come to see the human who dared request direct audience with their queen. Most probably expect him to offer formal surrender, maybe beg for mercy in terms they can refuse gracefully. David approaches the throne. His footsteps echo in the vast space, each one a countdown to the moment where he either succeeds brilliantly or fails catastrophically. There's really no middle ground for what he's about to do. He stops at the prescribed distance, 15 paces from the dais, which his briefings indicated was the formal boundary between petitioner and throne. The queen watches him with an expression that gives away nothing, her skin patterns cycling through colors he hasn't learned to read yet. Ambassador David Kine of Earth, announces a court official whose title his translator renders as something between herald and person who makes everything sound more important than it is. You have been granted audience with Her Radiant Majesty, Queen Thessa Salvar, sovereign of the seven systems, keeper of the star crown, she who commands the void. Speak your petition. David takes a breath. This is the moment. Everything he's planned, every cultural study he's absorbed, every risk calculation he's run, comes down to the next 60 seconds. He doesn't speak immediately. Instead, he does something that makes the entire throne room fall into shocked silence. He kneels, not the formal bow of diplomatic courtesy, where one inclines from the waist while maintaining eye contact, not the partial kneel of military respect, one knee down while the other stays ready. Full kneel. Both knees on the ancient stone floor. Head bowed. Hands open and empty at his sides in a gesture of complete vulnerability. In human culture, it's a powerful symbol of respect, of placing yourself at someone's mercy. In Sylvari culture, according to every brief David studied, it's something far more significant. Kneeling is reserved for the most sacred moments, pledging eternal loyalty to one's sovereign, offering one's life in service to a cause, or, and this is the part David is banking everything on, proposing marriage to one's chosen partner. The silence in the throne room isn't just quiet. It's the sound of several hundred beings simultaneously trying to process what they're witnessing while their cultural frameworks short-circuit from the implications. David speaks, his voice clear and carrying across the vast chamber. Your Majesty, I kneel not in surrender but in respect. Earth seeks not your defeat but your partnership. We have fought for 7 years. Both our peoples have lost sons and daughters, entire colonies, futures we'll never see. I come before you now to offer what my government has authorized me to give: peace. Not because we are weak, but because we believe that true strength is knowing when to stop fighting. He pauses, still kneeling, still vulnerable before a queen who could have him executed with a gesture. I offer this peace with humility, with hope, and with the genuine belief that what we can build together is greater than what we can destroy separately. I kneel before you, Queen Thessa, and I ask, will you accept Earth's hand in partnership? The throne room remains frozen. David can hear his own heartbeat, loud in his ears, counting seconds that feel like hours. Then Queen Thessa moves. She rises from her throne and the movement ripples through the court like a wave. Every guard tenses. Every courtier leans forward. Her skin patterns shift to colors David has never seen in any of his research, patterns his translator doesn't even attempt to label, just displaying unknown emotional state, possibly unprecedented. She descends from the dais. Each step is measured, deliberate, giving David plenty of time to second-guess every decision that led to this moment. She approaches until she's standing directly before him, close enough that he can see the intricate details of her bioluminescent patterns, can smell something like ozone and flowers that his briefings never mentioned. For a long moment, she simply looks at him, studies this human kneeling on her throne room floor, offering peace in a gesture that carries implications he might not even fully understand. Then, in a voice that carries the weight of royal authority and something else, something that might be surprise or might be respect, she speaks. "Rise, my husband." The throne room explodes. Not literally, though David briefly thinks actual explosions might be less chaotic than what follows. Solvari courtiers begin shouting in their musical language, translators struggling to keep up with 17 conversations happening simultaneously. Guards move toward the queen before stopping, uncertain whether they're protecting her from a threat or witnessing a ceremony. Someone in the back galleries faints, which David's translator helpfully notes is unprecedented in modern court history. David looks up, confusion and shock warring on his face. His translator is throwing error messages, unable to reconcile what it just heard with any diplomatic protocol in its database. Queen Thessa extends her hand. The gesture is formal, significant in ways David's spinning thoughts can't fully process. But he understands somehow that accepting her hand means accepting everything that comes with it. He takes her hand. Her skin is warm, the bioluminescent patterns flowing across her palm like living circuitry. She pulls him to his feet with strength that reminds him she's not human, that her species has conquered star systems through both strategy and raw capability. When he's standing, when they're face to face, her still taller by several inches, her eyes level with his forehead, her skin patterns flare in colors that ripple through the court like shock waves. "Let it be known," Queen Thessa announces, addressing the throne room but still looking at David, "that I have invoked the right of sovereign union. This human, David kind of Earth, has offered peace through the ancient gesture of kneeling. I accept his offering and bind myself to him in return. We are, by the oldest laws of our people, joined." A warrior near the front, an older Solvari whose scars suggest extensive combat experience, and whose formal armor indicates high rank, steps forward. "Your Majesty, this is, the right cannot be invoked lightly. It is sacred, binding, eternal. You cannot marry this human simply to secure peace." "Chief Advisor Corrin," Thessa says, her voice carrying an edge that makes the warrior stop mid-step, "I do not invoke the right lightly. This human came before me, knowing I could have him killed. He knelt, making himself vulnerable in a court of warriors. He offered peace not from weakness but from strength of conviction. That deserves recognition, not suspicion." She turns back to David, her patterns shifting to something his translator finally manages to label: determination mixed with genuine respect. "When I saw you kneel," she continues, speaking to him now but loud enough for the court to hear, "I saw what my empire has forgotten in centuries of conquest. I saw courage without violence, strength without domination, a leader willing to risk humiliation for the chance at something better." Her hand tightens on his. "So I made my choice. And by invoking the right, I have bound myself to you as surely as you have bound yourself to me." David finds his voice, though it comes out slightly strangled. "Your Majesty, I came to negotiate a peace treaty. I studied your customs extensively, but I don't think I fully understood." "You understood enough," Thessa says. There might be amusement in her patterns now, or he might be projecting hope onto colors he can't read. "You knew kneeling carried significance. You did it anyway. That is either courage or foolishness, and I have chosen to interpret it as the former. But I'm married now." The diplomatic part of David's brain is screaming about protocols and proper procedures, but it's being drowned out by the part of his brain that's just discovered that apparently he's married to an alien queen. By Solvari law, yes. Thessa's patterns cycle through something that might be sympathetic. "I understand this is not what you anticipated. If you wish, we can address the cultural misunderstanding." "I can." "No," David hears himself say, Because somewhere between kneeling and standing, between offering peace and being called husband, he's made a calculation. This woman, this queen, looked at his gesture and responded with something far braver than a simple peace treaty. She bound herself to him publicly in front of her entire court. She chose trust over suspicion, partnership over domination. And if he backs out now, he doesn't just insult her. He proves to the entire Silvari Empire that humans can't be trusted to honor the implications of their own gestures. Also, and this is the part he'll probably need therapy to fully process, she called him her husband, and something about that makes him want to prove worthy of the title, regardless of how accidentally he acquired it. No, he says again, more firmly. If this is the price of peace, if this is what it takes to end 7 years of war, then I accept. I'll figure out how to be whatever you need me to be. Thessa's patterns flare in colors that definitely read as pleased. What I need you to be is yourself, David Kine, the kind of person who kneels before power and offers partnership instead of submission. That is worth more than any treaty. She turns to address the court, still holding David's hand in a grip that feels both possessive and protective. Spread the word across all systems. Earth and the Silvari Empire are no longer at war. This human and I are bound by the right of sovereign union. Any who harm him harm me. Any who honor him honor the throne. We are family now. Act accordingly. The throne room slowly transitions from chaos to a different kind of chaos, the organized kind that follows royal decrees nobody was prepared for. Advisors huddle, guards take up new positions, and courtiers begin the complex social calculations required when their queen suddenly acquires a human consort. David stands there, hands still held by an alien queen who just married him to stop a war, and thinks that this is going to require the most creative incident report in Earth's diplomatic history. His communicator chirps urgently. Messages from his support team, probably some variation of "what the hell just happened," repeated in increasingly frantic fonts. He'll answer them eventually. Right now, he's trying to process that he came here to negotiate peace and somehow ended up negotiating his entire future. Thessa leans close, her voice dropping to something only he can hear. Your people will need explanations. Mine will need time to adjust. But I meant what I said. You demonstrated courage worth honoring. We will navigate this together. I really hope you mean that, David says. Because I'm going to need significant help understanding what I just agreed to. Her patterns shift to what he's learning might be her version of a smile. You agreed to peace, partnership, and apparently marriage. The first two were intentional. The third was ambitious improvisation. I'm great at improvisation. It's why I'm in diplomacy instead of something with clear rules like, I don't know, accounting. This time her patterns definitely indicate amusement. Come, we have arrangements to make, treaties to formalize, and approximately 2 civilizations to inform that their war is over and their leaders are married. She leads him from the throne room, still holding his hand, while the court watches and whispers and tries to process what just became the most significant political event in recent history. David follows because what else is he going to do? He came here to end a war. Mission accomplished. The fact that he's now married to an alien queen is just a bonus. A very unexpected, legally binding, probably going to require extensive therapy bonus. Behind them, Chief Advisor Corin watches with an expression that suggests he's already composing reports about this disaster. Around them, the palace begins the complex process of adjusting to a new reality. And somewhere in orbit, David's diplomatic team is probably having collective heart failure. But the war is over. 7 years of fighting, ended because a human knelt and a queen answered with trust instead of suspicion. Worth it, David thinks. Probably. He'll know for sure once he figures out what exactly he just committed to. Thessa's hand tightens on his, and her patterns cycle through colors that his translator labels as anticipation mixed with genuine affection. Maybe, David thinks, this won't be so bad after all. The royal quarters assigned to David make his apartment on Earth look like someone's optimistic attempt at using a closet for habitation. The ceiling soars upward into what might be additional floors, or might just be an architectural commitment to the concept of excessive verticality. The furniture is scaled for beings larger than humans, which means chairs David can curl up in and a bed that could comfortably sleep a small sports team. Everything glows softly with bioluminescent accents that he suspects are alive, but doesn't want to confirm because some questions are better left unasked. He's been here for 3 hours, fielding increasingly frantic calls from Earth's diplomatic corps. The conversations follow a predictable pattern: shock, confusion, demands for explanation, and eventually resigned acceptance that their ambassador somehow married an alien queen and ended a 7-year war in the process. The president's call was particularly memorable. She'd opened with, "I'm going to need you to explain this very slowly," and ended with, "humanity's first interstellar marriage, and you couldn't have dated first." But she'd also acknowledged that the war was over, that Earth's losses had stopped, and that apparently David had negotiated the most unusual peace treaty in human history. So, that was something. He's staring at a wall that shifts colors in patterns he can't interpret when someone knocks. The sound is precisely calibrated, not aggressive, not apologetic, just the audio equivalent of "answer this door because I am royalty and doors obey me." Queen Thessa stands in the corridor, flanked by 2 guards who manage to be simultaneously present and invisible through what David suspects is significant training. She's changed from her formal throne room attire into robes that still look royal but are presumably more comfortable. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin cycle through colors his translator labels as anticipation, concern, determination. "May I enter?" she asks. David gestures at the absurdly large room. "It's your palace. I assume you can enter anywhere you want." "Yes, but we are married now. This is your space as much as mine. Consent matters." She says it like it's obvious, like respecting boundaries is just standard operational procedure for alien queens who accidentally marry human ambassadors. "Then yes, please, enter." David feels like he's navigating a conversation in a language he only partially speaks, which is accurate on multiple levels. Thessa enters, and the guards remain outside, closing the door with a soft sound that suggests expensive engineering. She moves to one of the larger chairs, sits with grace that makes it look easy, and regards David with those golden eyes that feel like they're reading his biography in real time. "You're uncomfortable," she observes. "I'm spectacularly uncomfortable. I came here to negotiate a peace treaty and somehow ended up married. My government is confused, your court is probably in chaos, and I have no idea what happens next." David sits across from her, his chair large enough that he feels like a child in adult furniture. "Also, I don't know the first thing about being married to an alien queen. Is there a manual? Please tell me there's a manual." Something in her patterns shifts toward what might be amusement. "There is a manual. It was written 3 centuries ago when the right was last invoked. I believe it's filed under historical curiosities, probably never relevant again." Great, so we're both improvising. Essentially, Thessa is quiet for a moment, her patterns cycling through colors that David's translator suggests mean careful consideration. "I owe you an explanation. About what happened in the throne room." "That would be helpful, yes. You did not intend to invoke the right," she begins. "I know this because I had your diplomatic briefings analyzed after your petition. They were thorough but focused on formal protocols. They mentioned kneeling as a gesture of respect, but didn't detail its deeper implications. So I accidentally proposed marriage." "Not exactly. Kneeling alone would have been interpreted as formal submission or deep respect. But your words, speaking of partnership, of joining hands, combined with the physical gesture, created an ambiguity. one that could be read as either diplomatic submission or, she pauses, or something more significant. David leans forward, and you chose to interpret it as something more significant. Yes. Why? Thessa meets his eyes directly. Because I watched you approach my throne knowing that I could have you killed. I saw you kneel, making yourself completely vulnerable, and offer peace not from a position of strength, but from genuine belief that cooperation was worth the risk. That is, her patterns shift through complex colors. That is rare. In my centuries of rule, I have seen countless displays of submission born from fear. I have seen diplomatic gestures calculated to perfection. I have never seen someone kneel before absolute power and offer true partnership. So you thought I was brave, and you married me about it. I thought you demonstrated qualities worth binding myself to. Courage without arrogance. Strength through vulnerability. A willingness to risk humiliation for a cause you believed in. She leans forward slightly. My empire is built on conquest. We are strong because we have always chosen to dominate. But domination creates resentment, breeds rebellion, requires constant vigilance. You offered something different, cooperation born from mutual respect. I wanted to honor that, so I invoked the right. But you did it knowing I didn't fully understand what I was agreeing to. Yes, and I am offering you now in private what I could not offer in that throne room, the chance to refuse, to call this a cultural misunderstanding, to have the union annulled and return to simple treaty negotiations. Her patterns shift to something David's translator finally manages to label clearly: sincere regret with undertones of hope. It would be politically complicated. I would lose face before my court, but I will not bind you to this through deception. You deserve choice, David Kine, even if that choice is to walk away. David sits back, processing. The queen who rules an empire that's never known defeat is offering him an out. She's giving him the power to humiliate her before her entire civilization, and she's doing it because she believes in the consent she spoke of earlier. That tells him more about her character than any intelligence briefing ever could. What happens if I don't walk away? He asks. If we stay married, what does that actually mean? Thessa's patterns shift to something that might be relief, though she's trying to keep her expression neutral. It means we rule together, not in the human sense where spouses are separate entities who happen to live together. In Sylvari culture, the right creates a single sovereign unit. My decisions are your decisions. Your words carry the weight of the throne. We become, legally and culturally, two halves of one authority. That's terrifying. Yes. I don't know anything about ruling an empire. I noticed. You barely know how to sit in our furniture without looking lost. There's definitely amusement in her patterns now, but you know other things. You understand diplomacy, negotiation, the art of finding common ground. Those skills translate across cultures. And you think we can make this work. Actually work, not just political theater. Thessa is quiet for a moment. I think, she says carefully, that I made my choice in that throne room based on instinct as much as strategy. I saw you kneel and something in me responded, a certainty that you were worth the risk of binding myself to. But instinct is not enough for marriage, even political marriage. We would need to learn each other, build trust beyond the gesture that brought us together, navigate two cultures that have been at war for 7 years. That sounds impossibly hard. It does, but the alternative is 7 more years of war, or 70, or until one of our civilizations collapses under the weight of sustained conflict. She meets his eyes. You came here willing to kneel before an enemy queen for the chance at peace. I am asking, are you willing to stay, to try this impossible thing, not because you have to, but because you believe it's worth trying? David thinks about Earth, about the colonies lost, the families destroyed, the futures erased by 7 years of fighting. Thinks about his conversation with the president, her weary voice acknowledging that the war was bleeding humanity dry even as they refused to admit it publicly. Thinks about Thessa watching him kneel and choosing trust over suspicion. Thinks about the fact that walking away now would mean returning to Earth having failed to secure lasting peace, because a treaty without the right can be broken. The marriage, strange and unexpected as it is, binds both governments in ways no document can match. I have conditions, he says. Thessa's patterns flicker with something that might be approval. Name them. First, you teach me. Your culture, your history. How to read those patterns on your skin, because my translator is useless, and I'm tired of guessing whether you're angry or amused. Agreed. Second, I get to maintain contact with Earth. Regular communication with my government, my family. I'm not cutting myself off from my own people. Also agreed. I would never ask you to abandon your origins. Third, we do this honestly. If this marriage is going to be real, even if it started as political theater, then I need honesty. No manipulation, no using our bond for pure political gain without discussing it first. We're partners or we're nothing. Thessa stands, moves closer. Her height advantage is less intimidating now, more just, noticeable. Those are reasonable conditions. I have one of my own. Which is, give this a genuine chance. Not just for politics, not just to maintain peace, but as a real relationship between two people trying to understand each other. Her patterns cycle through colors that David's translator labels as vulnerable hope. I am a queen. I have advisors, warriors, an entire empire that follows my commands, but I have not had a partner. Someone who sees me as Thessa rather than as a throne, I think. I would like to try that if you're willing. David looks at her. Really looks, past the bioluminescent patterns and the royal bearing and the fact that she rules star systems. Sees someone who made a brave choice in a throne room and is now asking him to make one too. Okay, he says. Let's try the impossible thing. Thessa's patterns blaze in color so bright David has to blink. His translator displays a string of text that scrolls across his vision. Joy, relief, anticipation, affection, gratitude, determination. And then, after a pause, emotional complexity exceeds translation parameters. Recommend learning to read patterns manually. She extends her hand. Not as a queen offering royal acknowledgement, but as a person offering connection. Partners, then, we navigate this together. David takes her hand. Partners, though you're going to need to walk me through so many things, I don't even know where to start. Start with dinner, Thessa suggests. We should eat together, learn each other's preferences. It is traditional after the rite is invoked, though usually couples have courted first and know such things already. We're definitely doing this backward. Yes, but perhaps that is appropriate for a union between species who have been enemies. She moves toward the door, still holding his hand. Come, I will introduce you to Solvari cuisine. Try not to be alarmed if things move on the plate. Some of it is supposed to do that. That's horrifying, and I'm choosing to believe you're joking. I am not joking, but I will ensure you are not served anything that will actively fight back. Much. They leave the quarters together, hand in hand, walking through corridors that David is starting to recognize. Guards fall into formation around them. His guards now, he realizes, as much as hers. The palace is beginning to feel less like a fortress he's trapped in and more like a place he's learning to navigate. News of the royal marriage spreads across both civilizations at speeds that make light look slow. Earth's media explodes with coverage ranging from "Ambassador ends war through marriage" to "Is this love or politics?" to the inevitable tabloid pieces speculating about interspecies compatibility that make David want to hide under his absurdly large bed. The Solvari response is more controlled, but no less intense. Courtiers who'd been dismissive of the human now watch him with calculation, trying to determine his influence over the queen. Warriors who'd seen him as weak now see him as someone Thessa chose to bind herself to, which apparently carries significant weight in a culture that values strength. 3 assassination attempts occur in the first month. 2 target David directly. One a poisoning that fails because human and Silvari biochemistry are different enough that Silvari toxins just make him slightly nauseous, and one an ambush that Thessa's guards intercept before David even knows he's in danger. The third attempt targets both of them during a public appearance, and David gets his first real demonstration of why Thessa is called a warrior queen. She moves with speed that shouldn't be possible for someone her size, intercepting an energy weapon blast with her own body. The blast hits her and simply stops, absorbed into her skin, which flares with bioluminescent patterns so bright they hurt to look at. She redirects the energy with a gesture, sending it back at the attackers with enough force that they're unconscious before they hit the ground. Then she turns to David, checks him for injuries with hands that are surprisingly gentle despite having just demolished 3 armed attackers, and asks if he's all right in a tone that suggests the world might burn if the answer is no. "I'm fine," David manages. "You just that was combat training. All Silvari royalty learned to fight." She says it like it's no more remarkable than learning to read. "Are you certain you're unharmed?" "Yes." Mostly impressed and slightly terrified. He looks at the unconscious attackers being secured by guards. "Is this going to be a regular thing?" "Probably. There are factions on both sides who see our union as betrayal. They will need to be." Discouraged, her patterns shift to something protective and slightly predatory. "But they will learn that harming you means facing me, and I am not known for mercy toward those who threaten my family." "Family." She says it so naturally, like he's already fully integrated into her life. David is still processing that 3 months in. They have dinner together most nights now. Thessa teaches him to read her patterns. Not all of them. There are apparently some that are too complex for non-Silvari to fully comprehend, but enough that he can tell when she's amused, concerned, affectionate, or plotting the diplomatic equivalent of controlled violence against particularly annoying advisors. He teaches her about human culture in return, earth music, which she finds fascinating and slightly chaotic, human literature, which she approaches with the intensity of someone analyzing military strategy, human humor, which takes her weeks to understand, and then she starts deploying it against her own advisors with devastating effectiveness. "I informed Chief Advisor Corin that his latest resource allocation proposal had big defeated energy," she tells David one evening, her patterns cycling through obvious amusement. "He spent an hour trying to determine if I was insulting him or commenting on thermodynamics. You're learning memes. I've created a monster. You have created a queen who can communicate with younger generations of both our species. This is strategically valuable." But her patterns betray her. She's enjoying this, the casual back and forth that has nothing to do with politics and everything to do with 2 people learning to make each other laugh. Earth's government sends a formal delegation to the Silvari throne world 4 months into the marriage. They arrive with the careful energy of people who aren't sure whether they're attending a diplomatic success or trying to extract their ambassador from an increasingly complicated situation. The delegation includes David's former supervisor, Ambassador Helena Park, who takes one look at him standing beside Thessa during the formal reception and makes a sound like she's witnessing a miracle and a catastrophe simultaneously. "You got married," she says when they have a moment alone. "I got married. To an alien queen. To an alien queen who can redirect energy weapons with her hands and also has opinions about earth jazz music." It's been an interesting few months. Helena studies him with the expression of someone conducting rapid threat assessment. "Are you okay? Actually okay, not diplomatic okay." David considers this. Considers the fact that he's learning a new language written in bioluminescent skin, that he's navigating an alien court where every gesture carries meaning, that someone tries to kill him approximately once a month, and his wife responds by becoming even more terrifying. Considers also that Thessa listens when he talks about missing Earth, that she's arranged for human food to be imported because she noticed him struggling with Solvari cuisine, that she asks his opinion on matters of state and actually incorporates his suggestions, even when they contradict centuries of imperial tradition. "I'm okay," he says. "It's weird and complicated and sometimes terrifying. But it's also working. We're actually building something here, not just politically but personally. He stops, searches for words. She's remarkable, and she chose me. Keeps choosing me every day, when she could easily have this annulled and return to ruling alone. That means something." Helena's expression softens. "You care about her." "I think I'm falling in love with her," which feels insane to say about someone I've known for 4 months and married for political reasons. But yes, I care about her, a lot. Good, because Earth's government has decided to fully support this union. You're not just an ambassador anymore, David. You're our bridge to the Solvari Empire. No pressure, but the future of human-alien relations kind of rests on your marriage working out. Helena, that's literally all pressure. I know, but if anyone can handle it, it's the man who ended a 7-year war by accidentally proposing to an alien queen. She grins. Also, the tabloids back home are having a field day. You're a celebrity now. There are holodramas being produced about your love story. Please tell me you're joking. I am not joking. There are at least 3 competing productions. One of them is allegedly a comedy. Earth's entertainment industry moves fast when given material this good. David groans and makes a mental note to never, ever watch those productions. The formal ratification ceremony happens 6 months after the throne room incident. Both governments have agreed that making the union official, with all the legal frameworks and treaty language, is necessary to cement the peace. It's held in the same throne room where everything started, but this time the atmosphere is different. Less shock, more ceremony. Representatives from Earth stand alongside Solvari courtiers. The ancient High Keeper of Traditions presides, her long ears bound with ceremonial wire, her voice carrying the weight of centuries as she recites the formal words that will bind 2 civilizations together through the marriage of their leaders. David wears formal attire that Thessa's attendants helped design, a fusion of human and Solvari aesthetics that somehow works, making him look like someone who belongs in both cultures simultaneously. Thessa wears traditional Solvari royal marriage regalia, crystal and bioluminescent fabric that shifts with her emotions. Her patterns cycle through colors that David can now read clearly: anticipation, joy, love, determination. Love. That's new, or maybe it's been there and he's only now learned to recognize it. When it comes time for his vows, David forgoes the prepared diplomatic speech, speaks from his heart instead. 6 months ago, I knelt before you to offer peace. You answered by offering partnership. You could have taken my gesture as submission, used it to secure Earth's defeat. Instead, you chose trust. You bound yourself to me, gave me a place beside your throne, taught me to navigate your culture without making me abandon my own. You've shown me that strength includes vulnerability, that power includes compassion, and that love, he pauses, meeting her golden eyes directly. And that love can grow even in the most unexpected circumstances. I don't know how to be a king. I don't know half of what I should about ruling an empire, but I know how to stand beside you. How to support you, challenge you, make you laugh with terrible human memes at inappropriate moments. So that's what I promise. To be your partner, your husband, your equal. Not because duty requires it, but because I choose you, Thessa Solvar. Every day I choose you. The translator renders his words into Solvari, but Thessa is watching his face, reading the truth that needs no translation. Her patterns blaze with colors the court has never seen her display, colors that, according to ancient texts, signify a queen who has found not just a consort, but a soulmate. She removes her crown, the symbol of her absolute authority, and places it on David's head. Not permanently, just for a moment before taking it back. The symbolism is clear to everyone present. He is not her subject, but her equal. Then she places both hands over his heart, a Silvari gesture that means, I see your soul and it matches mine. The ceremony concludes. Earth and the Silvari Empire are officially bound through marriage, through treaty, through the kind of alliance that transforms galactic politics. But for David and Thessa, standing together before their peoples, it's something simpler and more profound. It's two people who met as enemies, who took impossible risks on each other, who built something real from the ashes of war. The celebration lasts 3 days. There's dancing. David learns Silvari ceremonial movements and teaches Thessa approximations of human dances that make her laugh. There's food from both worlds, cultural exchanges that sometimes work and sometimes result in confused faces on both sides. There are speeches about peace and unity and the future they're building together. And late at night, when the celebration's finally quiet, David and Thessa retreat to their shared quarters, actually shared now, not just assigned adjacently, and sit together in comfortable silence. I still can't believe this is real sometimes, David admits. That I came here to negotiate and ended up married to you. I can believe it, Thessa says. Her patterns cycle through soft colors that David now recognizes as contentment and affection. I saw you kneel and knew you were extraordinary. Everything since then has simply confirmed that initial assessment. You decided I was husband material because I knelt before your throne. That's possibly the weirdest origin story for a relationship. Perhaps, but it worked. She leans against him, her head resting on his shoulder despite the height difference making it slightly awkward. We are building something unprecedented, David, not just politically but personally. Two species learning to love across cultural boundaries. We will make mistakes, already have made them, but we will learn. Together, David says. Together, Thessa agrees. Outside their window, the Silvari throne world glows with celebration. On Earth, similar celebrations mark the end of 7 years of war. Across both civilizations, people who were enemies months ago begin the slow, difficult process of learning to see each other as potential allies instead. And at the center of it all, a human and a Silvari queen, holding each other in the quiet hours, having built something impossible through courage, trust, and love that defied empires. David Kine came to the Silvari throne world to offer peace. He knelt before a queen expecting negotiation. He rose as a husband, bound to her by customs he barely understood but honored nonetheless. And in doing so, he proved what humanity had been trying to tell the galaxy all along, that their greatest strength wasn't in weapons or conquest, but in their willingness to trust, to risk, to build bridges even when kneeling made them vulnerable. The war was over. Peace, hard-won and bound by love, had taken its place, and the stars themselves seemed to approve.